This is the GenWhy Leaders Podcast, Episode 10.
And so I quit and I didn't have a plan. I went in and I was like, this is my 2 weeks notice, I'm gonna quit. And the 2 weeks came, and that last day I was like, this is my last day. And I turned in my uniform and everything, and I'm like, woohoo! And it was 2 or 3 days later, I just had a total meltdown, panic attack. What have I done?
Wow.
I'm not gonna make a penny. It's gonna be just like the last time. I totally freaked out.
Hey everyone, this is Eric Huey, host of the GenWhy Leaders Podcast, where we interview and learn from millennials who are leaders in their fields. These are individuals who have started their own businesses, have a high-ranking title within companies, or are simply pursuing non-traditional means, such as their passion or hobby, to support themselves and their families. There still exists this negative stigma around our generation that we are entitled, lazy, and unreliable. So my goal is to prove that wrong, while also inspiring millennials to become the best versions of themselves and go after their big goals. Episode 10. We made it. I say we because this show would be nothing without you guys and nothing without the guest. So thank you so much for everyone who has listened. Thank you to all the first 10 guests. Really thankful for you guys and just the quality that you've brought to the show and helping me get this show off the ground. Episode 10 probably doesn't sound like a huge benchmark to anyone else, but there's that momentum effect to where I strongly believe that now that I have 10 under my belt, my original goal of getting to 100 is well within reach. It's just going to take continued time and persistence and day in and day out effort. So I hope to be motivated right alongside of you and join all of you on your entrepreneurial journeys as well. Most of all, I want to say thank you to my wife, Cassie, because I have sacrificed a lot of quality time and carefree time together to pursue this podcast. Lots of mornings and evenings editing content and doing social media and things like that. So big shout out to you, babe. Love you very much. And thanks for all you do and all the support you give me. My guest for episode 10 today is Amy Jo. Amy is the founder of Her Own Magic, in which she is a business coach for women entrepreneurs and helps them sell digital products and services online. Amy's got an awesome story. She actually started as a community college art teacher, but quickly realized she wanted to impact people beyond the classroom. So she took her skills online and really grew her following that way. But then she also realized that rather than just art, she could help other women do the same thing in terms of growing a business, building a business online around something that they're very passionate about. So really cool story, a lot of key takeaways from this. One in particular is money blocks, is a term I'd never even heard before, so stick around for that. Here's my interview with Amy Jo. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm so excited.
Yeah, Amy and I have a long history. We actually grew up down the street from each other, so it's awesome to see her grow as a professional and see her start her own business and see it grow. So this is nostalgic for me and pretty fun to experience this. So if you could just explain for the listeners who you are and what you do.
Sounds good. My name's Amy Jo. I'm a business coach and marketing strategist for creative entrepreneurs. And the easiest way for me to describe what I do is I take your brain and I put it into digital products and services and help you do that and get it out to the world.
Very
Short
cool.
and sweet.
Yeah. Seems like you've given that pitch before.
You know what? I redid my messaging recently and I like how it flows. I think it gets straight to the point.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. Well done. And then second question, what's your why? What fuels your work ethic that you have?
So when I first started in 2015, my why was I hate my job. What am I doing?
That's still a why?
I'm just why? And my whole business kind of started by accident, actually in 2012, and I didn't really know it at the time when I started teaching. And I was in a cubicle doing marketing, and I liked it, and I worked at a community college locally. And we did brochures for community education classes, and I orchestrated all of that, all the promotion for it. And one day my boss ran in and she was like, one of our teachers dropped out for the art program for this art class. I need help, step in and teach. And because my background's in art therapy, that was my bachelor's. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I think you're crazy for even asking me. I've never taught anything before. What are you thinking? Yeah. And she was like, just go home and think about it. And so I went home and it was that internal nudge. I talk about it all the time, follow the curiosity, follow the nudge, even if you're terrified. And so I did, and I went back and I was shaking. I guess I'll teach.
It was a good rush.
Yeah. And so, long story short, I ended up doing that. And I started teaching, and people started to know me as like the soul paint girl. And I did these art workshops in the community college and in people's houses, and just kind of hopped around. And like the money was cool. And I ended up being like, well, maybe I could do something with this. And like that job I didn't hate. That was cool. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to quit this job and start my own business, and everything's going to be great. And I didn't make a penny. Like, not a penny. And it was, kind of like a gut punch. Mm-hmm. We're just like, man, I thought I could do it, and I didn't, and I just totally failed. And so I went and I got another job in sales, and that was the job that I'm just like, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And so my big why, that was 2015 at that point. I'm like, what am I doing? I was a newlywed. I was coming home grumpy all the time and just not in a good mood. And my husband's like, you gotta do something about this. Like I love you, but you're grumpy. Do something. And so I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And so I quit, and I didn't have a plan. I went in, and I was like, this is my 2 weeks notice. I'm gonna quit. And like the 2 weeks came, and that last day I was like, this is my last day. I turned in my uniform and everything, and I'm like, woohoo! And it was like 2 or 3 days later, I just had like a total meltdown, like panic attack. What have I done? Wow. I'm not gonna make a penny. It's gonna be just like the last time. And I totally freaked out. And I got to the point, obviously, there is no going back at that point. You quit your job. And so my why was like, I gotta get out of my job. Then my next why was like, I gotta make this happen, or else I'm gonna look silly. Right. And so I just, pretty much stalked everybody online to figure out how I could do the thing. And so I remembered I was still doing my art classes on the side, and it's cool, but you're lugging around 100 pounds of art supplies, right? And there's one of me. Yeah. So sustainability, and I want to help more people. I don't just want to help people in Kansas City. Right. I want to branch out.
Yeah, not limited.
Yeah, and so during my art workshops, I was doing this coaching, which I didn't know what it was at the time. It was this whole transformational coaching thing where I took them through this mindset shift with painting. Okay. And so I'm like, if I could take that online somehow, what would be possible? And so that's kind of where I started. Could I package my brain and offer a service online? And that was kind of what steamrolled. So now I just had a baby, and so that's my new why. Right, yeah. I guess congrats the why, on that. The short-term why kind of changes, but the long-term is I want to help people, and I want to help people on a larger scale. Yeah, very all the time.
So just to kind of recap that, so you started Soul Paint. You unfortunately weren't making much money from it, not a penny, as you'd say. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of pivoted back into the corporate world, took a sales job, but then realized you were unhappy doing that. So you then again revisited entrepreneurship, kind of refocusing the business model of what Soul Paint could be to making it more digital at a larger scale and online.
Mm-hmm. Definitely the business
awesome.
Model.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool.
Yeah, I started out doing one-to-one coaching in 2015. So after the sales job, I was like, I quit. Oh no, I quit. What do I do? Yeah. And started out with one-to-one services, and then branched into courses and offering a digital workbook and things like that. So
yeah. So when you started doing one-to-one, was it still art driven and art therapy, or was it at that point where you're already starting to do coaching and online marketing coaching and things like that?
It was actually mindset coaching was what I started with, because that is what, through my Soul Paint classes, the mindset coaching, throughout the 4 weeks that the people were with me, that was the biggest thing. The painting was cool, but the mindset shifts that would happen in my workshops were just nuts. Yeah. And so I was like, if I could take that mindset coaching and do it online and work from home and be in my own office. I like being out in the world, but part of me is definitely an introvert where I just kind of like to stay in my office and hang out, and control my time of when I'm engaging with people or going out, if that makes sense. So,
yeah, totally.
So yeah, in the beginning it was mindset coaching, and then it's just evolved from there.
It just hit me, but it makes total sense of if you enjoy the mindset and the psychology of people in general. That applies so well to marketing and sales and copywriting and all that. So I'm sure that's a portion of what's led so much to your success.
Yeah, it's super crazy because, I mean, my bachelor's was art therapy, so it's art and psychology mixed.
Okay, yeah.
And so just seeing, like, now sitting here, like, how all the puzzle pieces kind of aligned.
Yeah.
You know, you like pull your hair out throughout the journey. You're like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And then you like get to a place where you're like, oh, I see. Like, I see why this and this and this had to happen.
Right.
Like when it did.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, that's very cool. Thanks for recapping that. Every business goes through this initial phase. A lot of times people refer to it as a proof of concept, just proof that whatever your service or offering is going to stick with people, that you can make a living off it, build a business off it. So for you, as you transitioned or scaled from one-to-one to online coaching, what was kind of your light bulb moment or your epiphany moment to where you were thinking, okay, this could work. I'm going to pursue this 100%.
I feel like the whole entrepreneurial journey is like the best self-help or self-discovery, I guess is a better word.
Yeah.
That you can go through, because in the beginning, like as you start, you're like, you see everyone else doing kind of what you might want to be doing, and they're having a lot of success. And at the same time, your mind's like, I could do that. Like, yeah, I want to do that too. But then the other half of your brain's like, wait, but everybody's doing that. Like, the market's saturated, or, it's just like this ping pong back and forth in your brain.
You're in my head right now already.
Yes, I'm saying it. It's just like, and I hear it like all the time from my clients. They're like, well, I had this great idea, but I mean, like everybody's doing that. I'm like, well, if a lot of people are doing it, like that validates that it's needed.
It's proof of concept in itself.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, if you go into Walmart, there's not just like one option of bread.
Yeah, that's a great point.
There's like tons of bread.
Yeah.
So,
create your own flavor, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so even like me and you, if we were doing the exact same thing, the way that you're going to market yourself and talk and your podcast and like doing all of these things is going to be different than the way that I would do it. You know, there's a market for both of us. There's space for everybody. I guess that's what I want to say.
The great thing about the digital world that we're in.
Yeah.
So tell me more about how, as this evolution continued and your business grew, did you always start from the get-go focused on helping female entrepreneurs, or is that something that kind of just unraveled naturally?
So, yeah, I mean, I am a girl, so I resonate with girls a little bit better than guys. Like, we're more emotional thinkers, and I have worked with men in the past, and it's just like a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
Like, I like the dudes, that's cool, but I definitely resonate with the women. And actually, when I was doing my art workshops, which I still do from time to time, but when I was doing that, it was all women. Mm-hmm. I think I had, like, in the years that I've done it, I've had like 3 men, maybe. And so it was just, natural to me to like market to women.
Yeah.
And, because I can speak on that like emotional level. I've been there, I get it.
Of course. I'm sure guys just want like a 3-minute conversation and say, okay, tell me what XYZ I need to do to get it fixed. And then
oh my goodness, yes.
Women want to be heard out of what they're experiencing and the emotional side to how you spoke to that.
It's totally different. Yeah, it's funny. Mm-hmm.
So I guess on that point, now that you're a new mom, congrats.
Thanks.
How is it being a mom and building a business? Because I'm sure there's people out there listening who are women out there listening who are career focused and either about to have a baby or kids are in the future, but also have aspirations to start their own business. So tell us what that life's like now.
It's hard. It's hard. I've actually been talking, I'm in a mastermind right now. And so we talk about like our highs and lows. So like our successes and struggles. And my struggle this week was like, guys, all of them have kids older than mine. Like, I'm the baby of the group pretty much. And I'm like, I'm really struggling here. Like, when he's super tiny and he just kind of sleeps all day, you're like, oh, I got this. Like, my schedule's great. I can kind of like work around his schedule.
Right.
But now he's getting more, not mobile. Like, he's only almost 6 months, so he's not running around yet. But just trying to figure out a schedule that works. And I'm very much the type of person that's like, I got this. I can handle it. I can do the housework. I can, take care of him. I can run my business. I can be a wife. I can be a daughter. I can like do all these things. And it always leads me to burnout. And so what I started doing at the end of last year, and I'm still adjusting but at the end of last year and this year is like starting to loosen the reins on my business. So asking for help and, hiring people to like take things off of my plate. Mm-hmm. So I have a gal that I just hired for social media, which I'm so excited about because it's just like a whole nugget that I don't even have to worry about. And so I'm slowly like letting go, even though my business is like another child, I feel like, growing
for sure.
it, and it's really hard, but, everything's like a learning experience, and like setting your boundaries and figuring out like what time you want to devote here, what time you want to devote here. And
you got to focus on your most profitable activities for your business. And
exactly.
Where you can make the most impact. How'd you go about hiring that gal? Was that someone you had in your network already or were aware of, or did you just randomly kind of come make that connection online? How did it
was online.
Cool.
It was actually through Fiverr.
Okay, I think I've heard of that. That's kind of like Upwork.
It's like Fiverr, Upwork. There's like a few.
Yeah.
And I had, I think it was like November, December last year, either right before he was born or right after, I hired a couple different people back to back, and they just weren't like the perfect fit. And so I was like, I'll just try Fiverr one more time and see if it works. And this girl has just been amazing. Like, I love her, don't even know her. So I'm keeping her on board with me for a while.
So you mentioned this point earlier, as far as potential clients that you talk to worry about the space being crowded as far as online coaching and things like that. What's your take on that? Is it crowded? Is it not? Is there years ahead of growth?
I say yeah. And I say that for multiple reasons. I really like this question because I think, like we were talking about earlier, like, oh, everybody's doing that, there's not space for me. That's very rarely, if ever, true. There's always space. But if we look at like the world in general, colleges are going online, Amazon's online. I mean, you can do groceries online. You can literally you don't have to leave your house. You can literally do everything now online. And so, I'm a big proponent and believer in like just about anything that you can think of, you can, build online. There's a guy who people pay him to go hunt for Bigfoot.
Wow.
About that.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, if people will pay that, there's a market for just about everything on there. So
no kidding. That's a great example.
I don't think it's oversaturated. I don't think it's crowded at all.
Yeah. The beauty of the internet, although it's so vast, you can also get so super niche with everything that you're doing, is that you can segment out those audiences and potential clients or audience members, pretty easily.
Yeah. I really like what you just said about, niching. And
I never know how to say it. Sometimes I'll say it either way.
12 different ways to say one word. Like, what is this? Yeah. I mean, when I first started, I was like, I'm going to do mindset coaching. And so I put it out there. And like, I mean, when you put a net out there, like pretty much any fish can jump in.
Right.
And then as you start working like one-on-one, you get to know who you really jive with and who you don't. And so when I did that, like I had men, I had women, I had people who had some like deep stuff that I was like, oh snap.
Yeah.
I don't think we would be good to work together, but it's really like even just doing that, like having like a general of this is what I want to do and starting there and then niching down as you kind of decide who you like working with and who you don't. That journey in itself is fascinating.
Yeah. It's like niching down and scaling up at the same time.
Yeah, it really is. It's bizarre.
And that brings me to the next point of what I wanted to talk to you about is you've given us this background in how your business has grown. You started with the art therapy and just doing soul paint and how it's grown, but you've added in all these, I guess what I'd call business layers or revenue streams with your website and the podcast and your courses and things like that. So I guess walk us through kind of those evolutionary processes as far as at what point do you decide that you're going to add a layer and how do you go about that strategy of making it worthwhile?
I'm still learning how to do it without burning out.
Yeah.
I have to be like totally honest about it because when I was doing one-on-one, I was like, this is great. Like I can just talk to people on Skype and set my days and say like I want to take clients on these days and not on these days, and I always want to have a 3-day weekend or like whatever. And then you get to a point where there's again only one of you and there's multiple people who want to work with you, so you're just at that point you have to decide like I got to the point where I got exhausted and burnt out because I was doing, before I had packages that people could purchase, I was doing hourly. And so people could book me for like $97 an hour or something like that in the beginning. And then I was like, I need to build packages. And then it kind of grew from there. But I mean, I was seeing people in person in the very beginning and online. And my schedule was like just crazy. And I was running myself crazy. And I got to the point where I'm like, back to one of my whys, where I just want to help so many people, but there's only one of me. Like, what do I do? And so I hit a wall. I did that for almost 2 years, the one-to-one, and hit that burnout point. I'm just like, oh boy. Yeah. And so I took a break, and we moved, and just like a lot of life stuff happened at that point, and I had to like realign, like, what am I doing? Do I want to go back one-to-one full time? Right. Or like, what are my options? And so when people get to that point, like if I still do at this point, I'll do VIP clients is what I call them. But when I see people kind of get to that point, you have to adjust and be aware of your options. So basically I got to that point, and so I found the people that I had been following religiously online and stalking, following, whatever.
Same difference.
Yeah, same thing. And seeing, what are their revenue streams? What are they doing? Are they doing one-to-one? And 9 times out of 10, they weren't doing that anymore. They would start, for the first 9, 12, 24 months doing one-to-one, and then they would transition. And so when I saw that happening, like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. Let's explore. And so I was still doing one-to-one, and I was building an online course at the same time. And that online course, that very first one that I ever did, I did a webinar that directed people to it. So I'm like, I built this course. I did it all backwards, but that's fine. It's like, I built this course, and now I'm going to send people to it and do a webinar, and it's going to be great. And so I think I had like 18 people show up for that webinar.
Nice.
And I was
good
like,
turnout.
woohoo, like, this is great. And I did it, and my sales process at the time was kind of shaky. And so I was like, and this is the course I'm offering, and it opens in a week, and if you want to buy it, here it is, bye. And I just like breezed through it. And there were 6 people who emailed me. Wow. And they're like, I want your course.
Yeah. It's like 33%.
Oh, that's quick math.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. Like, not a math person, but yeah. So I was like, this is cool. And when it had actually launched, I think it was like one person like fully paid for it. And like, I sold it for $299. I was like, I need $299, and my car payment's $200. And it just like the stars aligned.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, what are the possibilities here? And so I had that, and then I had a digital workbook that I would sell. And I think at the time I was selling it for like $19, or I don't know. I update it and I don't remember what it was. It was something like that. And I remember I rolled over one morning at like 6 a.m. and I had gotten a ping like from PayPal, and it was like, someone buy your workbook. And I was like, but I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And
that's
just little
things
right. Like that. It was just like, it was so bizarre. Just things like that were just kind of little ahas, little nudges to explore, I guess. And so I just kind of went from there.
Very cool. And then where does the podcast tie in? That's called the VIP Lounge. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah,
I don't know. I just felt like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
Seems like it's a very good kind of a personal brand for you as far as building your brand voice, and you as an expert and a digital marketer. It's kind of like your initial top end sales funnel to kind of gauge interest with potential clients, and then you can filter people down to your website and so on and so forth.
Definitely part of the sales funnel for sure. I think when I didn't even know about sales funnels when I started. Yeah. I didn't even know. I was like, I don't know. The growth from where I was it's awesome. But in the beginning, like even when I started the podcast, I didn't know what a sales funnel was. I did webinars. I didn't know what a sales funnel was. Like I ended that webinar was just like, if you want to buy it, cool, buy. Like I didn't have like a whole process set up. But no one's really asked me that, like, why'd you start a podcast? And I think back in the day, like I really liked doing webinars, and I liked doing that live training, and I like to talk. And I was like, hey, this is a win-win. I can just talk to my microphone and send it out. And now, I'm at a place now where I'm like, people can really learn a lot from podcasts, and I learn a lot from podcasts. I listen to them all the time. I listen to them when I'm driving and when I'm, all the time. And so I'm definitely a big advocate for podcasting. I think it's awesome. And the more that people can learn from you, like doing this, like talking or, live video or webinars or whatever it is, the more they begin to trust you and will eventually buy from you or, follow you for a while, if anything.
So what are maybe like 3 to 5 tips you'd give listeners who are trying to build an online business? This could be anything from a personal brand to, website tips. What are, from your experience, what are, some general tips that you would give listeners?
So many tips. This is my favorite one. And I can't remember, I didn't make this up, and I can't remember who I heard it from. But
That's
it was
right.
a YouTube video.
Okay. If we figure it out, I'll put it in the show notes or something like that.
Gosh, I'm sorry. But it's basically like runners who go to the Olympics and they're the fastest people on the planet. They don't get there by looking side to side at who's next to them or who's following them or who's around them. They get there by keeping their eye in their lane and their eye on the prize. And so in the beginning, totally guilty of this, and I see a lot of people do it too, but you're running like this and you're like, I gotta build my business, and you're looking all around to see like who's watching you, and maybe you're getting stage fright or you're being intimidated by this person over here, like what if this person laughs at me, and you're just your eyes are kind of going all over the place instead of focusing in your lane. And so I think the number one thing is just focus in your lane, keep your eye on the prize, and keep going. Don't look back, don't look to the side, don't get shiny object syndrome. That's a thing. Stay in your lane and keep moving forward. And you'll get there sooner and faster than if you were looking all over the place, I think is my number one for sure. And then kind of on the more technical side is, I just started saying this phrase this week and I kind of really like it, but a lot of us think of having a website as having a website. And I think more of the traditional way is you have the website to send people to learn about you. Like, go to my about page, or, this is what I have to offer. Let me know what you think, that sort of thing. Instead of looking at it as a converting machine, and having something set in stone that works for you. So as we're talking about, sales funnels, and we touched on that in this interview, I think having processes set up on your website that do selling for you, or if you have an online course, have all of that automated to where it eases the energy for you, eases the burden of, either back and forth email to your clients or, whatever it is. Just make it as easy as possible for you. That's number 2. Number 3. Gosh, I should have had all of these written down.
You're right. If there's only 2, it's only 2. That's the
Those
top
are
2.
my 2 favorite ones. Number 3. Okay. Number 3, I got it.
Nice.
Number 3. So in the beginning, like when you're just starting out, there's about 150 million people online that you're like, I need to do it like that. I need to do it like that. I need to do that. I need to do that. And there's Facebook ads every 2 seconds when you're on Facebook now, and you're like, I need that freebie. I need that freebie. This is going to solve all of my problems. And soon, like, your inbox has 52,000 like unopened freebies, and you're like, I need to get to those someday.
Yeah.
And instead of pull yourself offline for a minute and refocus, but instead of going after every single person, every single freebie, following every single guru that you see out there, pick like your top 2 or 3, and that's it, and cut off everybody else. Just follow them and see what they're doing, and really explore them. So explore their website, what's working for them, explore their offers, what are they offering, because these are people who are in your market, and they're obviously doing something that you want to be doing.
Right.
So if you can kind of follow along and see what's working for them, they're not going to be doing stuff that's not working.
Yep.
So you can kind of hack the system a little bit and make it easier on yourself versus like throwing spaghetti to the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yeah.
Which I threw a lot of spaghetti in the beginning, so I know. Yeah, those are my top 3.
So as we get towards the end here, what's one accomplishment that you're most proud of?
Ooh, goodness. I think, honestly, one of my favorites is making my first sale ever. Yeah. And I know that sounds like, oh, that's just, it's about me. But really, like, your first sale in your business changes everything for you. And I think it really, like, it makes you feel more valuable, as weird as that sounds. Like, it affirms the belief that you already have in yourself. And so, you could, you can say, I know I can provide value. Like, I can help you. And then when you get that first exchange,
validation.
Yeah, that money exchange, you're just like I'm being heard,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's really just opens the gates, and then you really start to see what's possible for you. So, and I see it like with my clients too, like that first sale that they make, it's just like, I did it.
Yeah.
Like this is going to change everything.
The initial start of the snowball, or like the first domino, however you want to say it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's just something about the beginning that's really magical, I think, and that's probably my favorite part.
That's awesome. What are some books or resources that you would suggest, either, you know, in general for life or work, or maybe specifically for marketing, business development online? Any resources? They don't have to be books. They could be podcasts, you know, other stuff too.
What was really hard for me, and I mean, your mindset is never 100% perfect. You always have to, every time you up level, you get hit with mindset blocks all the time. Like, am I really ready for this? Is this really happening? Like, who am I to be doing this? That sort of thing.
Yep.
And so I started following this woman. Her name's Denise Duffield-Thomas, and she talks about money blocks, and that was a really big thing for me in the beginning. And especially in the beginning, you start, like, that first sale is amazing, and then for me, what happened was guilt. Like, oh, I feel so bad. Like, I'm taking this
like you're robbing
money.
them or something.
Yes.
Like, no, I'm just having a business.
Yes, exactly. And like that first sale I did okay, and then I made another sale, and I'm like, And then that third sale, I remember I told my husband, I was like, I need a refund. I need to refund her. Like, I feel so bad. Like, and I cried.
Oh gosh.
Like all night.
Oh my
I feel
gosh.
so bad. I didn't understand what money blocks were. And that is something that's like so pivotal as you are building a business, because you have to sustain. You know, you can't just have a hobby. Like, you have to build a business. You have to make revenue. And so Denise talks all about money blocks, and she has books. And so when I actually discovered like what those were, and then I had like 152 of them, I really had to do like a lot of work, because I had money doesn't grow on trees. Like, you're charging too much. Who are you? You don't know enough. Like, all of these, it's just bizarre. Yeah. And she and a lot of people say that about the time when you're like 7 years old, you have all these beliefs, and they're set until you do the work. And so your belief about money is pretty much set by the time you're 7.
Wow. That's way earlier than I thought.
Oh my goodness. I know. I'm like, that's second grade.
Yeah. Wow.
Insane. And so her resources are awesome. Or, anyone that you can find that resonates with you as far as the money block space, or like really getting comfortable with like that aspect of your business, because you might feel really good about doing Facebook Lives or doing podcasts or, putting things out there. But when it comes to like being paid for that, you're just like, ugh. And, I say this myself, you could have Joe Schmo who's like, I don't care, I'm going to charge $1 million. And like, it's great, and they don't have any issues. But if you're like me, that was like a really big thing.
That goes back to your desire just to provide service without any without any expectation of anything in return. So I'm sure that was a conflict point, but I'm sure a lot of people go through it. For sure.
Money is evil, money turns people evil, just all of these things. Like, I don't know. I could go on that for a long time, but that's important. So books and resources, she has both of those. I really like Pat Flynn.
Yeah, I've heard Pat Flynn. Yeah.
I love him. Yeah. His Ask Pat podcast is fascinating, so you can learn a lot from that. Amy Porterfield, I love her too. Those are like my top 3. So when I talk about like through this, I'm thinking about them the whole time. Like, as we have, you've been asking, like, or I've been talking about follow 3 people. Like, those are my 3.
Nice.
I just love them, and I love everything that they do and they put out there. So, and then one more thing, as far as like a tool that I really like that I'm using now that I wish I would have used from day one is I started using ClickFunnels, which is Russell Brunson. Oh, I guess he's 4, so that's my top 4.
Okay, nice.
Oh man, now I have 4. Sorry guys. So those are my top 4. Sorry, but he created ClickFunnels, and what I really like about him is that it's a bigger mission. So ClickFunnels, basically, you can design your website, you can design your sales funnels, you can do automated webinars. Like, it's a whole like all on one platform.
It's kind of like a step above WordPress. I mean, I don't know too much about WordPress, but it sounds like it's got some extra components that would actually help drive business growth.
Yeah, I was on WordPress for a long time. Like, I still like WordPress. There's a lot of plugins that you have to like add in, and it can get the job done. Like, But I started exploring ClickFunnels and I switched pretty quickly just because it was really easy. And the templates that they give you as far as, sales funnels and things like that it's like drag and drop. So
very cool.
It's very cool. Their mission, that's what I was going to say. So with using ClickFunnels, every sales funnel that you build, they donate $1 towards building schools in Africa.
Wow.
So I like the mission of that too.
Yeah,
so that kind
that's
of
neat.
I don't know. I like being a part of something bigger too.
For sure. Our generation definitely does, I feel like.
I guess so, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So to close this out, I always want the show to be a resource for listeners, but a resource for you too. So if anyone would want coaching or general advice on starting a digital business, where can people best get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can find me online at soulpaintco.com is my website, and then Instagram and Facebook is the same, soulpaintco.
Okay. That wraps up today's episode. I want to thank you all again for listening. My name is Eric Huey, and my goal is to provide you with inspiring content that helps you do your job better or go after your big goals. I'd appreciate your feedback with a rating or review on whichever platform you found the show. And if you'd like to share your feedback directly, or if you know someone who would be a great guest on the show, feel free to email me directly at GenWhyLeaders@gmail.com. That's GenWhyLeaders@gmail.com. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.